Looney Tunes Racing is a kart-style video game. It was released for the PlayStation and the Nintendo Game Boy Color between the year 2000 and 2001, and it was also published by Infogrames. It would also follow a sea of other similar titles that would see a release on the console and even on other systems of the time, that pretty much from the get-go you can see the inspiration behind it, as it took a lot of influence from the iconic Mario Kart games that uses the same formula but puts its own spin on it, with using some of the most iconic characters from the Looney Tunes universe from Warner Brothers, with the likes of Bugs Bunny, Wile E. Coyote, Taz, to name but a few, and they all have their own gimmicks and quirks along with their own types of abilities that they can use throughout each race. So there are a number of different modes available, from your championship single races, two-player, multiplayer style races, that give you access to a variety of different power-ups that you can use against your opponents, and they can also do the same with you as you race. So with your goal being to win each event or each championship, which there are a few available, very like the Mario Kart games. If you've ever played the likes of Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, or even any of the later games on the Nintendo 64 and the like, they have a very similar setup in how they present themselves. So with this game, you start off with characters in the beginning, but there are more characters to unlock as you progress once you win tournaments and so forth, and you'll also gain access to additional vehicles and features. So with each of the championship levels as well, there are different difficulties that are associated pretty much with each stage, as the first one is generally for beginners, just to ease you into the game, but it will gradually increase with each mode that you progress through. But one of the interesting aspects with this is definitely, like a lot of these kart games, is with its multiplayer features, as for most of us, even growing up and looking back over these games, that is where the most fun would be had. Now, in saying that, while it does utilise elements that were seen in other games, it didn't receive the best of reviews, and I think mainly due to the reason, yes, it had licensed elements with characters, and it had some interesting visuals, even cartoony styled elements that really suited the game's aesthetic, but if you compare it to other racers of the time, it was fairly bare bones and basic, as there were a lot of other games of a similar calibre out there that presented more ideas with regards to the modes and overall features. There was just a lot more available. Plus, I think at that time as well, a lot of these kart games were starting to hit a decline somewhat, because there was too many of them trying to do the same thing, and especially as this was later on in the PlayStation's life cycle. Around this time, the PlayStation 2 was already on its way out, if at that time was released in some of the regions. So from all intents and purposes, this game would have been overshadowed or overlooked, because most people would have been jumping on the PlayStation 2 bandwagon. Now, it's still really cool to see a lot of these games being released on the PlayStation, even beyond the PlayStation 2's launch period, and there were some interesting games. Like, this isn't a bad game really as such at all. It's a lot better than you may think. It just wouldn't be as good as other kart racers that are out there, but it really just depends on your own preferences.
Serves you right.
Hey!
Oh no! Oh no!
Now, when you compare the PlayStation to the Game Boy Color version, there are a lot of differences, and the PlayStation obviously is considered the better version, but the Game Boy Color gave a good alternative for players on the go and for anyone that had a Game Boy. But it's just one of those interesting games that is reflective of its time. It does have some nice graphics, it does have some nice visuals, it does get quite addictive, I will admit, the more time you do put into it. Plus, if you're a fan of these iconic characters, which most of us would have been growing up, you will be familiar with it, and you will get a good laugh out of it, in short bursts at least. released as well. Plus it's another one of those alternatives to the likes of Crash, Team Racing and so forth that might be worth a try, as there is a lot of these type of games out there. So if you are looking for an alternative to any of those games, there's no harm in giving this one a go. But how you feel about the game and what you think of it, well, that's down to you. But regardless, I would love to know your thoughts of this game and what did you think of it overall. Were you a fan of this type of kart racer back in the day, or which one was your favourite on the PlayStation, or of that period in general? So be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around other types of kart racer games like this that were also released on the console back in the day, then you can check out the playlists I have here on screen so that you can see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.